Yeah. Welcome to the daily morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtottara Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, we're continuing with our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 2. We are in Chapter 1. Text 22. We're going to start from text 22. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. And this is today's verse. We're going to do from 22 all the way till 39 today. Almost the end of the chapter, basically. It's the end of the chapter. Okay. Please repeat. Rajo Vacha Yatha Sandharyate Brahman Dharana Yatra Sammatha Yadrishi va haredashu Purushasya manomalam. Rajo vacha Yatha sandharyate brahman Dharana yatra sammata Yadrishi va haredashu Purushasya manomalam. Somebody want to chant? Rajvacha Yatha sandharyate brahman Dharana yatra sammata Yadrishi va haredashu Purushasya manomalam. Rajavacha Yatha sandharyate brahman Dharana yatra sammata Yadrishi va haredashu Purushasya manomalam. Vacha Yatha sandharyate brahman Dharana yatra sammata Yadrishi va hare dashu purushasya manomalam. Okay. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. This is the word for word translation. Raja Uvacha. The fortunate king said, Yatha, as it is. Sandharyate, the conception is made. Brahman, O Brahmana. Dharana, conception. Yatra, where and how. Sammata, in a summary. Yadrishi, the way by which. Va, or. Haret, extricated. Ashu, without delay. Purushasya, of a person. Manaha, of the mind. Malam, dirty things. Okay, translation. The fortunate king Parikshit, inquiring further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. Please repeat. The fortunate king Parikshit, inquiring further, said, O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuronmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatyade Shatarine. Okay, to set the context for where we are, this is Maharaj Parikshit, who's been cursed, and he's now at the banks of the Ganges, right? And he's now in the presence of Shukdev Goswami, and he asked him a very, very important question. You know what the question was that led to this conversation? Yeah, the question before that? Yeah. What is the thing that brings perfection for all persons? That was his question, right? And then he qualified that with saying, especially for people who are going to die soon, right? This was his question. And then he added more and said, what should one hear? What should one chant? What should one remember? And then what should one not do? This was his question, right? And then Shukdev Goswami appreciates this in the beginning of this. This is such a nice question, because this question is applicable for everybody, for all persons, right? Perfection for all persons. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. That this is not for a certain sect, this is not for a certain gender, certain race. This is for the perfection of all persons, and especially one who's about to die. And could be applicable basically to any of us, because we have no idea when we're going to die. At least Parikshit Maharaj got a 7-day notice, right? And Shukdev Goswami goes on to encourage in the beginning of this chapter that don't worry, you have 7 days. There was one person called Katwanga Maharaj who had just a moment of time. All is not lost, you can still make your life perfect. And then he starts speaking about what he should do, right? And what was the thing? He has already given his answer, right, in the beginning. What does Shukdev Goswami say Parikshit Maharaj has to do? What does he say he has to do to perfect his life? This was text 11, right? This is, we had like 3-4 days of classes on this text. But the basic bottom line is Harer Namanu Kirtanam, that chanting the holy names of the Lord. This is in any situation. This is what Shukdev Goswami says, right? Whether you have material desires, you have perfected your life by dint of knowledge, you are trying to perform mysticism, in any stage that you might be, what you have to do is Harer Namanu Kirtanam. This is what you have to do, he says. And then Parikshit Maharaj asks him questions further, and then it comes to this point where this is the first chapter of the second canto, right? And the first 3 chapters basically encapsulate the 3 basic stages. And what's this chapter called? Do you remember? First steps in God realization. That's what this is, right? And the next one, do you know? Yeah, the next one is the Lord in the heart. And then the third one is the change of heart, right? Pure devotional service. So you're basically going from first steps, this is the gradual step that you're taking into devotional service, and then it's progressing further up to the point of pure devotional service. In the next 3 chapters, Shukdev Goswami will completely go through all the steps that are required. Here especially, in the few verses, he's talking about the Virat Rupa, right? He's talking about the different potencies of the Lord that we can see in this material world. And Shukdev Goswami basically says you have to meditate on this, the different limbs of Vishnu. This is what he says in text 20, 21, 20, right? One's mind is always agitated by the passionate mode of material nature and bewildered by the ignorant mode of nature, but one can rectify such conceptions by relation of Vishnu and thus be pacified by cleansing the dirty things created by them. So this is what triggers the question today, right? Shukdev Goswami has basically said you can conceive of the Lord, and then everything that's dirty in your heart gets cleansed. And today, Parikshit Maharaj wants to have a deeper understanding of how to actually do it. That's why he's asking. That's why he asks this question. Please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied, and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. That's basically what we're going to continue with. How we can perceive the world around us, which is also an energy of Krishna, right? Krishna says, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kammano Buddhirevacha Ahankaramiti Yamme Bhinna Prakritirashada. That this material energy consisting of these 8 elements is a separated energy of mind. So everything that we see around us, which is the material energy, is also an energy of Krishna. It's an indirect manifestation of Krishna. So we'll see what Srila Prabhupada says in this purport. Do you want to read the verses first and then come back to the purport? That's how we do it. This is the purport that we have to read today. Okay. So let's do that. So let's go to text 23. We'll start reading the translations and then come back to 22, which is the purport that we have to read today. Does anybody want to read text 23 translation?
Shukdev Goswami answered, one should control the sitting posture, regulate the breathing process by yogic pranayama, and thus control the mind and senses, and with intelligence apply the mind to the gross potencies of the Lord, called the Virat Rupa.
Yeah. So here he is talking more about how we should prepare ourselves to focus our mind on the gross potencies, right? This is the Virat Rupa. Does anybody know what the Virat Rupa is? You know, familiar with the Virat Rupa? Yeah, the universal form of the Lord. It's still a material form. It's not there in the spiritual world, but it's still a form, nevertheless, right? So, how much ever we try to run away from this impersonal aspect, we are constantly being brought into this personal aspect of God to see how everything is part of this wonderful person, right? So, this is the beginning. The first steps in God realization is you're trying to appreciate the world around you, and you're trying to do that in the perspective of how these are parts and parcels of a supreme, of the Almighty, like you can say. Prabhupada will say that in the purport. Okay, let's continue.
The gigantic manifestation of the phenomenal material world as a whole is a personal body of the absolute truth.
Hmm.
The universal resulting fact, present and future of material time is experience.
Yeah. Is that okay? 25. No, we're just doing the translations.
Gigantic universal form and the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal shell, which is covered by sevenfold material elements, is the subject for the Virat conception.
Yeah. So basically, this is what we're trying to conceive of, right? In the Virat Rupa, this gigantic universal form of the personality of Godhead within the body of the universal shell. So it's described that this entire universe is in the shape of a shell, like an egg, right? And then this has several coverings, and these seven-fold material elements, right, that we discussed. Bhumi, Rapo, Nalo, Vayu, Kammano, Buddhirevacha, and Ahankara is also one of the coverings. This is basically the subject of the Virat conception. Okay, let's continue.
Persons who have realized it have studied that the planets known as Patala constitute the bottoms of the feet of the universal world, and the heels and the toes are the Rasatala planets. The ankles are the Mahatala planets, and the shanks constitute the Talatala planets.
Yeah. So we have in this universe 14 planetary systems, right? And here the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami is starting from the bottommost planet, which is the Patala, and then Rasatala, Talatala, Mahatala. He's going to slowly come from the bottom, and this is how we have to take darshan of the Lord also, right? We say you start taking darshan of the Lord from his lotus feet. And even in the Virat Rupa, in the Virat conception of the Lord, we see how it's applicable also. That we start from his lotus feet, even though this is considered to be a material manifestation. And here, what is his feet? Is the lower planetary system, right? The Patala is considered as bottom of his feet. And then we're slowly rising up to the heels and toes, which are the Rasatala planets. And then the Mahatala. Think about it. These are not just planets, right? This is the entire loka, or the entire, what do you say, the stratum, you could say, right? There are 14 stratums. This is planetary systems, we say, but these are huge planetary systems. Like the solar planetary system, the planetary system that revolves around the sun, is huge enough. And that planetary system is a tiny planetary system in the entire Bhuloka, right? That's the state where we are in. And this is one such thing. Rasatala is the entire, that's just the feet of the the Virat Purusha. And then the toes and nails are these two planetary systems. It's incredible how gigantic this is, right? This is okay. Just try to picture this when we're describing these different aspects of the Virat Purusha.
The chest.
Now this is 27, right?
The knees of the universal form are the planetary system of the name Sutala, and the two thighs are the Vitala and Tala planetary systems. The hips are Mahitala, and the outer space is the depression of his navel.
Phew. The depression of his navel is the entire outer space, which is huge, by the way. You can kind of get the conception of how gigantic this is. Right? This is no ordinary form. Arjuna was terrified by this. Okay. The next verse.
The chest of the original personality of God, the personality of the gigantic form, is the luminary of the planetary system. His neck is the Maharbha, his mouth is the Janastha, his forehead is the Tapas planetary system.
Yeah. So this gigantic universal form has how many heads? Yeah. Where have you heard this before? Yeah, but where else? This is Sahasra Sirsha Purushaha Sahasrakshas. This is the Purusha Sukta, right? This is basically describing the universal form of the Lord. How he has thousands of hands, thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, thousands of legs, like that. And in this universal form, the Satyaloka is the topmost planet. Who lives in Satyaloka? Lord Brahma, right? This is the topmost planet of this entire universal form, and that's the head of the Virat Purusha, right? Okay?
His arms are the demigods headed by Indra. The 10 directional sides are his ears. Excuse me. And physical sound is his senses of hearing. His nostrils are the two Ashwini Kumaras. And the material fragrance is his sense of smell. His mouth is blazing fire.
Yeah. This is why when we're performing yajna, right? The fire is considered the mouth of the Lord, right? We feed into the mouth of the Lord, and it's a microcosm how that actually goes and basically nourishes the entire universal. You feed at the mouth of the Lord, and everybody is satisfied. You see, the arms are the demigods headed by Indra. And the demigods do the legwork in this universal world, right? The arms are symbolic for performing work. So you see that the demigod headed by Indra is representative of his arms. So this is why we should not disrespect the demigods. They are parts and parcels of the Lord. They're doing the work of the Lord, right? We should always respect them. Doesn't mean we have to worship them, but we should never disrespect the demigods. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we could do that. This is just a lot of verses today. Yeah. Yeah. So you could read the following verses, and then we'll skip to 37. You said. Okay. So the rest of it is thus till 37 is describing the various features of this Virat Purusha, and now 38.
I have thus explained to you the gross material gigantic conception of the personality of Godhead. One who seriously desires liberation concentrates his mind on this form of the Lord, because there is nothing more than this in the material world.
Yeah, if at all we need something from this material world, it's basically focusing on the Virat Purusha, right? Because there is nothing more. Okay, the next one.
One should concentrate his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who alone distributes himself in so many manifestations, just as ordinary persons create thousands of manifestations in dreams. One must concentrate the mind on him, the only all blissful absolute truth. Otherwise, one will be misled and will cause his own degradation.
Yeah. No, I think we'll come back to the purport now, right? It's a very, very wonderful purport, Srila Prabhupada writes. Yeah, I'm going to start with one paragraph and then we can take turns. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read the translation just for context. The fortunate King Parikshit inquired further, said, this is text 22. O Brahmana, please describe in full detail how and where the mind has to be applied and how the conception can be fixed so that the dirty things in a person's mind can be removed. Purport. The dirty things in the heart of a conditioned soul are the root cause of all troubles for him. A conditioned soul is surrounded by the manifold miseries of material existence, but on account of his gross ignorance, he is unable to remove the troubles due to dirty things in the heart, accumulated during the long prison life in the material world. He is actually meant to serve the will of the Supreme Lord, but on account of the dirty things in the heart, he likes to serve his concocted desires. These desires, instead of giving him any peace of mind, create new problems and thus bind him to the cycle of repeated birth and death. These dirty things of fruitive work and empiric philosophy can be removed only by association with the Supreme Lord. The Lord, being omnipotent, can offer his association by his inconceivable potencies. Thus, persons who are unable to pin their faith on the personal feature of the Absolute are given a chance to associate with his Virat Rupa, or the cosmic impersonal feature of the Lord. The cosmic impersonal feature of the Lord is a feature of his unlimited potencies. Since the potent and the potencies are identical, even the conception of his impersonal cosmic feature helps the conditioned soul to associate with the Lord indirectly and thus gradually rise to the stage of personal contact. Let's continue.
Pritchett was already directly connected with the personal feature of the Lord Sri Krishna, and as such, he had no need to inquire from Sukadeva Goswami about where and how to apply the mind in the impersonal rupa of the Lord. But he inquired after a detailed description of the matter for the benefit of others who are unable to conceive of the transcendental personal feature of the Lord as the form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The non-devotee class of men cannot think of the personal feature of the Lord. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, the personal form of the Lord, like Rama and Krishna, are completely revolting to them. They have a poor estimation of the potency of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 9:11, it is explained by the Lord himself that the people with a poor fund of knowledge deride the Supreme Personality of the Lord, taking him to be a common man. Such men are ignorant of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. By the inconceivable potency of the Lord, he can move in human society or any other society of living beings and yet remain the same omnipotent Lord, without deviating in the slightest form his without deviating in the slightest from his transcendental position. So for the benefit of men who are unable to accept the Lord in his personal internal form, Maharaj Pritchett inquired from Sukadeva Goswami how to fix the mind on him in the beginning, and the Goswami replied in detail as follows.
Yeah, we've read the follows, right? How to fix the detail. Okay, so what is the root cause of all troubles that Prabhupada says? How? We just read it in the purport. It's the first line. Yeah. That's basically what is the root cause of all troubles that we have. The mind in our society that we live in, where do you point to the mind? But it's in the Vedic sense, it's manas. Manas is mind, it's close to the heart. And buddhi, intelligence, is here. So that's why when for the mind, it's talking about the heart, right? All the dirty things in the heart are the cause of all the troubles, right? This is a very, very miserable place that we live in. Krishna says, Dukhalayam and Ashashvatam. And yet we try to enjoy so much in this world. And why do we try to do that? Prabhupada says, you know, this is a really miserable place to be in. And yet we try to derive so much happiness in this world. And why do we do it? Ignorance, right? This is basically the root cause of everything. This is what Rupa Goswami says in the Nectar of Devotion. Avidya. That is the cause, right? Because we are ignorant, we really have no idea what to do. We commit or perform activities that are not really conducive for us, that are not really good for us. And which in turn binds us in this world, right? We get reactions for it. And this is a cycle, he says, right? Avidya leads to kuta, which is the tendency to commit sinful activities. And then those activities that we creates these seeds called bija, of these karmic seeds, so to speak, and then they start slowly fructifying, and it becomes aprarabdha and prarabdha karma, and then finally we have to experience the results of our action, right? This completely keeps binding us. This is basically what Prabhupada says here, right? These desires, instead of giving him any peace of mind, creates new problems and thus binds him to the cycle of repeated birth and death. But the idea is to give peace of mind, right? The idea of us performing any activity. Krishna says you can never achieve happiness without peace in the Bhagavad Gita, right? What to speak of happiness if you can't even be peaceful, he says. So the basic qualification that Krishna says for us to have happiness is you need to be at least peaceful. That's the platform on which you can start experiencing happiness. So by performing all these activities in this material world, what we're trying to do is we're trying to be happy, right? That's the goal of everybody. That every activity that we do in this world is so that we can become happy. But unfortunately, because of the ignorance, we're not performing the activity properly. It's not giving us the actual result that we are seeking for. It's not giving us peace or happiness in this world. And instead, it's doing the exact opposite and binding us in this material world and in this constant cycle of birth, death, disease, old age, birth, death, disease, old age. And Krishna says in the Gita something that's remarkable. He says, Yahi samsparsha jaboga dukkha yone evate atyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. That he says, any activity that has a beginning and an end, right, cannot give you happiness. It will only give you misery, he says. Think about all the activities that we perform that might have a beginning or an end. Practically everything that we perform in this material world has a beginning and an end. And what Krishna is saying is, anything that you perform that has a beginning and or an end is only going to result in misery. So what should we do? What should we do? So this, for people who have gone through this life after life after life after life and finally realize that I'm trying to satisfy my senses and it's not really giving me happiness, right? And for them, it's very hard, Prabhupada says, it's practically revolting to even conceive of the forms of the Lord as Lord Rama or Lord Krishna. It's a strong word, right? Revolting means you see something and it's completely repulsive. You don't even want to get close to it. That's because you've been dealing with people in this world and it's not been a nice, pleasant experience. And your natural reaction is to just run away from people. I don't want any relationships. That's basically what has been causing me misery, right? So I don't want to deal with people. But I want to deal with something that's abstract in nature, right? And Krishna is so merciful. It's amazing how even for such people, right, who really don't want him, Prabhupada is revolting. He still is trying to get in touch with them through his multi various potencies that he has in this material world, right? And that's what we've seen. In one way, we've seen in terms of this gigantic body of the Virat Purusha, right? How these planetary systems are his different parts of the body. But Krishna goes into much detail in the 10th chapter of the Gita, right? How he is the sun and the moon, right? The fragrance in the flower. He's the flower-bearing spring of seeds, and he's the flower-bearing spring he's the taste of water, right? How we can start appreciating, this is pantheism, right? Seeing the Almighty in nature. And what does this do basically? It's very hard to come to this point of appreciation actually, right? This is not very easy for everybody. How many of us go through the entire day not thinking about, oh, this is such a nice day. It's nice sunshine we have when it rains. We start appreciating the different aspects of this world. How many of us do it? Like, I rarely do it. We are just going through our motions, right? I want to get this done, I want to get this. Mostly we are in the mode of passion and ignorance. We're either doing things that are completely not good for us, or we're trying to do something that will give us something, right? Fruitive activities, Prabhupada mentions. So in the mode of passion and ignorance, there is absolutely no way we can start appreciating the different aspects of this material world. What this does is at least brings us to a platform of the mode of goodness. Right? When we go outside and see the world for what it is, see the magnificent world that we live in. But this is the problem. This is the ignorance, right? Krishna says, we spoke about this verse, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu, about the different elements that he says. But in the next verse, Krishna says, what does Krishna say? Does anybody know? Prakritim Vidhi Me Param, Jiva Bhuta Mahabhagho, Yeyetam Dharyate Jagat. But he says, okay, I've described these 8 elements, but there is somebody who is more superior than this. Apareyam Mitastvanyam. And who is that? It is us, the spirit souls, right? Among Krishna's energies are broadly classified as 3, right? What are the 3 classifications of Krishna's potencies, you know? Yes, internal potency, external potency, and marginal potency. And the material world is external potency, right? And we as spirit souls are marginal potencies. We can be here or there. So we are superior than the material or the external potency of the Lord, Krishna says. But what are we trying to do? In that verse he says, These apare mitastvanyam, these living entities who are superior than the material world are trying to exploit it. That is our natural relationship that we have with this material world, unfortunately. By default, we are not looking at the magnificence of this world that we are in, but instead we are trying to exploit it so that we can enjoy it. That is what creates this problem, right? Every one of us are trying to exploit the material resources that we have so that we can try to enjoy it. And what this does, what Shukadev Goswami is saying this does, is it shifts our perspective. And it says that this material world is something much beyond me. It's still a Daivihi Esha Gunamayi, Krishna says, right? This is still a divine energy of the Lord. Although this is material, it's still a divine energy of the Lord. And you cannot overcome it. We start feeling how minuscule we are when we are compared to this material nature. Right? And from that perspective, we start appreciating the world for what it is. So that's basically what this entire section is talking about, and how we can start appreciating the Virat Rupa. And this is, of course, an indirect way to approach the Lord, but it gradually brings us up, because then we start recognizing, oh, there is somebody behind this, right? Everything is not just running on its own, but there is some person who is actually moving this. And then we start gradually moving towards the personal conception of the God. Personal conception of the absolute truth. So that's basically how gradually Krishna helps us move. But for us as devotees, we have direct conception of the Lord, right? But the tendency when we are neophyte devotees is what? What is the one characteristic feature of the neophyte devotee? Yeah. See Krishna only in the temple. Krishna is there, the Kalachanji is there, but outside the temple Krishna is not there. I can do whatever I want. But this is not just for the impersonalists, right? It is also for devotees who are just starting their process in devotional service. We can see that Krishna is present everywhere through his potencies. And all of these potencies are invested in one place, which is what? Yeah. Where do we find it? What's the proof? Yes, can you say it? Yes. Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. That Krishna has unlimited potencies. But all of these potencies are available to us through the holy name. Right? That is why chanting slowly starts purifying the dirt in our heart. The first thing, the dirty things in the mind. Right? This is what we have to purify. The entire thing is so that we can focus the mind so that the dirty things in the heart can be purified. And the most potent way for us to do that is, what is the most potent way to, yeah, and the proof is the first verse, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. That our consciousness is like a dirty glass. And the chanting of the holy names of the Lord is trying to clear. That's basically the process, right? Once the dirt in the heart is removed and it's clean, we can see things for what they are, instead of us trying to exploit things. That we can see that, oh, I am meant to serve the Lord. That is who I am. I am not meant to be served. That's basically the reason why we are here. But then our perspective changes, that I am to serve the Lord. And then from that perspective, we start utilizing everything in the service of the Lord. So, we have 3 more minutes. Do we have any questions or comments?
I was appreciating how long you can stretch the impersonal aspect of Virat Rupa. I never seen this person going so lengthy, because it's very technical.
Yeah.
I was appreciating this. The whole lecture was, you were appreciating the personal form, but at the same time explaining how human society look like. Well, also when you say that person in the mode of goodness,
Yeah.
not appreciating this nature form, but I was thinking, what is the use of the mode of goodness? Because if you're in the mode of passion, you should flow or something about Krishna and appreciating nature form.
I wouldn't call that doing, okay, you might do it in the mode of passion, but at least you're doing service means you've recognized that there is this personality that you're serving, right? But it's not even, I'm not even talking about that position yet, right? But passion, I mean, you're just trying to satisfy yourself, doing activities so that I can be satisfied. From there, it's better. From that position, it's better. Yes, basically that's what it is. Yes. No. We don't have to. Can we come back? Like we'll take other questions and come back. Yes. Yes.
One question is, you mentioned that whatever activity has a beginning and an end
Yes.
is useless.
It's going to cause you misery. It's not useless. It's going to cause you. Yeah. Useless.
Okay, so it's understood that a devotee and a non-devotee might be doing the same activity, but the activity that the devotee is doing is completely different because it's connected to Krishna.
Yes.
So, for instance, a devotee must work.
Yes.
They must have a job.
Yes.
Then they're going to start that job, and then eventually they're going to retire.
Yes.
So how do we understand that a devotee has this job, a work,
Yes.
they're doing it, it's going to have a beginning and end, and yet it's not the same activity?
Yeah, that's a really nice question. So the devotee and the non-devotee, who's like, I want to say non-devotee, but other people are trying to do the same activity. Like we also have to work, but it has a beginning and an end. But what do we do about it? It's what do you do with the result that matters, right? What do you do with the result of the work that you have done? Do you do it for Krishna? What is the concept with which you do it? That's what makes it spiritual, right? Everything that you do, we try to spiritualize it. Eating is also an activity. You have to stop eating at some point, right? But you're not eating just any food, but you're eating prasadam or honoring prasadam. That's what makes the activity spiritual, right? Although the activity has a beginning and an end, it is not really a beginning and an end because it's a spiritual activity, because it's transcendental. It's beyond time. That doesn't have beginning and an end. That's how you make it. So anything that you do, as long as it's material, is what is bound by time. That's what it actually means. By beginning and an end, it means that it is within the purview of time. But anything that's spiritual is not within the purview of time, because time is a concept of the material world. It is not a concept of the spiritual world. So it's eternally there in your bank balance. That's what it means, right? That single activity, that the work that you've done, right? And then the result that you've given for Krishna makes the work spiritual, transcendental. And you can practically do it for every single activity in this world, right? This is basically what karma yoga is. That I'm still attached to the activity, but I'm dovetailing it and connecting it to the Lord. And yeah, I have to add one more thing, right? The verse itself says, "Yahi samsparsha jaboga," that the activity that has the object of the senses come in contact with the sense objects, with the senses. Right? Which means those activities are activities that you're doing for satisfaction of your senses, that has a beginning or an end. Does it make sense?
I think so, because if the satisfaction isn't for your senses, it's for Krishna.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
It might be working.
Yeah.
It's not to the devotee, it's not work. I'm not working.
Yeah.
It's service for Krishna and activities.
Exactly. And Krishna's point is this to Arjuna, right? He wants to stop working and go to the forest. His duty is that of, yeah, but he says you cannot stop working. And what does he call a person who tries to stop working? He calls him a hypocrite. Because he says you cannot do it. Because the nature of the soul is it's active. You cannot just be inactive. So we have to be active, but what is the right way to be active is what Krishna is trying to get to. Right? The right way to be active is not to work so that you can satisfy your senses, but so that you can work to satisfy the senses of the Lord. That is bhakti, right? Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. When we do that, all our senses get purified and all our designations go away. We realize who we actually are. That's why bhakti is so potent, right? The process and the goal is the same. For everything else, the process is different from the goal. I work so that I can acquire money to buy a home. So the goal is a home, but the process is something else. But bhakti is, do bhakti to attain bhakti. That's the most amazing thing about the process of bhakti.
I'm really feeling this in my heart. It's amazing that how much depression and mental agitation there is in the material world because of this thought of just beginning and
Yeah.
beginning and beginning.
Yeah.
You know, people are constantly dying, because you're the beginning and the end.
Yeah. No, that's a very powerful statement, right? Then we can start looking at all our activities and say, what am I doing this for? If it is for Krishna, it's eternal. Like cleaning a pot is eternal, right? Although you might have finished cleaning the pot, the activity that you've done is an eternal activity. It's not for you; it's for the Lord that you've done it. Yes.
I like your point on, sometimes when I read about the universal form, I'm like, oh, I'm already familiar with Bhakti, this isn't very applicable to me, or like, why does Bhagavatam talk so much about the universal form?
Yeah.
And you explain that, yes, it's for the impersonalists, but then also it's for neophyte devotees.
Yeah.
Devotees who only see Krishna in the temple. I never heard that before, that it's helpful to, because I thought as long as you're a bhakta
Yeah.
or a devotee of some kind, the universal form can not really be so applicable.
Yeah. In fact, this is even more amazing for a devotee, I would say, right? Because you're not just appreciating the taste, you're actually appreciating the person from whom the taste comes from. Like when you drink water, you're thinking about Krishna, not just the taste of water. You're thinking, oh, this is my Krishna who's put the taste in the water. That's why it's amazing for the devotees to go through this. I remembered one time, so basically the entire process is to be Krishna conscious, right? To be conscious of Krishna every single moment of our life. And Ritituja Maharaj was giving a class once and somebody was asking, how can we always remember Krishna? That's basically the point that Shukadeva Goswami is making in the previous few verses. You hear and chant, what does he say is the perfection of life? In the previous verses, Shukadeva Goswami says this. You're doing the process, but what is the perfection of life? Sorry, you were saying? Remember at what time? He says something very specific, right? He says, remembering the Lord at the time of death is the perfection of life. Yeah. So this is our process, right? We want to perfect our lives, which means we have to constantly remember Krishna. And this process helps us as devotees to remember Krishna. But for us, it's even more deeper in the sense it ties us back to the person that we are worshipping. Thank you. Okay, I think we should stop. We're out of time. Vancha kalpatrubhyasya kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki